Welcome to Match Point here on ESPN Cricinfo. And as I said when we were leaving for lunch, we're going to be doing something special, which is why Sanjay and me have given up the comfort of our chairs and our couches, and we've put the bat in Sanjay's hand, thankfully. But before that, let's give you a summary on what happened. It's been an interesting last 15 minutes just before we broke for tea. Two quick wickets, Sanjay. Powell and Samuels both out after Chris Gayle was dismissed early. India couldn't have timed those two wickets better.
Yes, and Chris Gayle once again didn't look the Chris Gayle of the T20, so I think there is some mental issue there. I hope he sorts that out. And Ashwin, when he got that ball to turn to Powell, the one before, I think a couple of deliveries before he got out, he was just afraid of the ball as if it was a hand grenade being hurled at him. So the next ball is sort of staying on the back foot and he just get it through. Wrong judgment of length. Easier said, it's so easy to make these observations, but when you're insecure on a turning pitch, it's a nightmare for the batsman. And that Mohammad Shami, Nigel Long?
Nigel Long as of now. He still gets it long, does Mr. Long. Oh, sorry, I don't know how to put that properly. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll focus on that and more in detail at the post-match show. We're going to do a dissection as we've come to know. The surgeon's here, his assistant is here. So we're going to do all that once we're done with at Stumps. But today at tea, since we've set up something for you and we're going to go into something special, we'll try and get you as much as we can here on Match Point. And one interesting point, the battle of how batsmen have played spin, Sanjay, especially in India. It's always a talking point whenever touring teams visit. And Rohit Sharma and Ashwin have shown great application in playing spin as against the West Indians in this recent session, as against the Indian top order even. So we're going to go into what Sharma and Ashwin did right, how they maneuvered Shillingford, Parmol, and what the West Indians probably aren't getting. Or any of you at home, if you have any queries on how spin needs to be tackled, the batsman's right here. Tweet in your questions with hashtag #matchpoint, and we'll try and address them just before we go back to live action. So Sanjay, at the outset, you've got the bat in hand after many years. It's a heavier and bigger bat since the one you used to hold, but that's just how the game is today. I must ask you straight off, Ashwin and Sharma, the minute they started playing, they looked comfortable against spin, and a spinner who was doing well, getting wickets. Initially, what was the correctness of the application? What were they doing right from the very beginning?
You saw me, we were watching the match together. I was so excited with the way, both, and Rohit Sharma, Ashwin almost played it identically, especially Shillingford. And I talked about it even in Match Point when we were sitting there as to how good the technique was. So here's what I think they were doing right. I mean, I tried to express that in words earlier, but here's a demonstration. So this is a zone, but I must say I'm a bit out of my comfort zone. Talking is so much easier.
The bat is in hands, and
nobody's bowling, so it's much easier, isn't it? Okay,
nobody's bowling.
So this is basically the stance. The stance may not be there in the exact position. But the most important thing that Rohit Sharma and Ashwin would have to do when they're looking at somebody like Shillingford or any other spinner coming to bowl to them is in their mind make an important call, important decision very early as the ball is released. Look at it and see whether that ball is going to be a full delivery. Whether it's a ball that they can control getting onto the front foot and whether the ball is going to pitch somewhere near here.
Right.
Because if they go onto the front foot, and the ball pitches somewhere further down, then they're in trouble. Because the ball is going to bounce. Shillingford gets the ball to bounce. It's a turning pitch. So that's the decision they make. Look at the bowler. Okay, this is a ball that I can get under control. Right under my bat, I'm on the front foot. But what they were doing beautifully, which got me very excited, is when they took stance and watched the ball and saw that this is not full enough, they went right back in their crease. And then they had more time, and because the ball is pitched further up, because it's not right under your bat, you get that distance, the time here, because you're going right back on the stump, and then he could do whatever he wants. Whether it's a dusra they haven't picked, they still have got time to handle it, and beautifully with the spin, ball was played on this side. If it was a dusra, on the off side, and they looked so much better.
Yep, absolutely. They looked better, and now that you've mentioned it, how they gave themselves time. I think that's what you were, oohing and eyeing about, that you saw them play it so perfectly. I saw a tweet also which said, I don't think either of them played a single ball with the pad. Now, the interesting point is, when you go back, like you said, I saw a number of, this is my observation, that they went back a number of times when the ball wasn't that short. Now, length, like you said, is important. But how do you decide on length, and how do you make an adjustment to give yourself as much of an opportunity, not just to play off the back foot, but to play scoring shots? What do you do differently in your movement?
See, sometimes you saw set batsmen, and once you get set, you can do these things. Sometimes ball that can be played on the front foot. After you've seen the pitch, after you've seen the bowler, you get onto the back foot. The advantage with that is when you get onto the front foot, a ball that has to be played on the front foot if it's not a driving ball. So if you're not driving it, you're not getting runs.
Right.
So you're only defending it. But once you're set, if you have the back foot play, you go right back and that same ball can be scored off. So instead of a dot ball of the front foot, they're going right back, and when it spins, the biggest advantage that a batsman can get from a spinning delivery or on a turning pitch is you get room. Because the ball is going to spin this way or that way, which means you get room to play this shot and something on the leg side. And you can do this when a bowler is like a Shillingford or Muralidharan, Sakla and Mushtaq. You know, when I played Sakla and Mushtaq, one of the things I used to do with his Dusra is not look to play it on the front foot, go back because the ball was going to spin away from me, and here's 1 run, 2 runs. So, you know, playing off the back foot to a spinner is critical, and most, you know, good players of spin play spinners of the back foot.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the interesting point is that it's so easy to misjudge length, and I wanted to ask you if it's fatal. We saw the wicket of Kieran Powell playing back to a very full ball from Ashwin. Now, I just wanted to ask you, if you've misjudged the length and you go back to try and play a ball, perhaps getting carried away watching the Sharma innings, watching the Ashwin innings, Kieran Powell, and then saying, you know, maybe I should just keep playing off the back foot, perhaps that could come in. If as a batsman you misjudge the length, is it fatal? Can you do something differently to a full ball on the back foot to, if nothing else, at least save your wicket?
The bat then has to be really low down. So if there's a ball that's pitched up and I've gone off the back foot, you should know in your mind, oh God, I've not got this right. But the bat has to be really close like this. With Ashwin and all, you've got to be careful because they can bowl the ball that skids through. Warney, you know, he could bowl a quicker delivery, the flipper one. Ravindra Jadeja, don't go on the back foot. So they'll stay on the front foot. But guys who bowl the overspin, Harbhajan Singh, Muthaiya Muralidharan, Shillingford, great value in, you know, looking to play off the back foot, and that's exactly what this guy did, and Rohit Sharma as well, which was just brilliant to watch. Copybook cricket, and that's why I was so excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're looking down on us, both Ashwin and Rohit Sharma, making sure we're getting this right. But yeah, Sanjay Manjrekar,
have a look at that.
There you go.
Just
that's good application, isn't it? Yep, absolutely. Now, the other thing is this. You said copybook, but there's something I noticed which isn't as copybook in, you know, modern day cricket. A lot of people say that when you're playing the spinners these days, considering umpires are more prone to giving LBWs, and the pad bat LBWs are given, which were extinct at your time, not heard of. You were telling me a story, if we have the time we'll get it in later, of how you never even knew these kind of LBWs existed. But I've seen Kevin Peterson play, and they largely put the bat in front of the pad in order to just make sure you play with the bat. That's the term the experts use. Don't bring the pad into play. Were Rohit Sharma and Ashwin doing that? Were they playing contemporary forward defensive shots, or were they playing more with the bat in front?
Quickly, I'll try and tell you how the front foot defense has evolved. You know, in the olden days, in the 60s, people like Dilip Sardesai, my father, Vijay Manjrekar, you know, they were so good against spin, they didn't use the pad at all. So it was always, you know, good judgment of the ball and just the bat going forward. And they used to have very soft hand on the grip, where the ball, even if it bounced here, would just roll down. They were just masters, you know, artists. Then came the time of the Sanjay Manjrekars and all, where we put the pad first and bat hidden somewhere, and it became the norm.
It was a trick, wasn't it? Just putting that back when you had never any intention of playing the ball.
Correct. And in Asia and in local cricket, nobody bothered. There was never an appeal made. In England, I went in 1990 and I did that. And there was a loud appeal, and I said, why are these guys appealing? And the umpire told me that was close. I could give you out. Then I suddenly realized different, you know, interpretations of leg before. So now with DRS, no one wants to do this kind of a situation. And with the umpires willing to give you out. So now proper front foot defense is also coming in. But with Ashwin and Rohit Sharma, because they were gauging the length so well, they had no problem because the ball was always under the bat. KP, when he starts off, is an example of a typical, you know, overseas batsman not comfortable against spin on a turning pitch. So what he would do, irrespective of where the ball is, at the start of the innings, and a few other English batsmen, they would get onto the front foot. You know, they come with this mindset, spinner bowling, I've got to be on the front foot. So wherever it pitches, they're on the front foot, but the ball is not here. The ball is further down, so it's going to do a lot of mischief. And from there, then they are sort of trying to control the naughty boy.
Correct. And now, if I could bring up that example of that I mentioned, now KP brings the bat in front. Is that just somewhere to scare the bowler, intimidate the bowler? Does he try to look like he's playing attacking and then just hold back? When your bat's in front of your pad, what are the important things to keep in mind should you play that way?
No, if your bat is in front, the ball better be under the bat. If it's going to be pitching there, then you're in trouble. Or then you can have soft hands, so even if you don't get it on the middle of the bat, you know, it still hits the shoulder of the bat and just trickles down. But I think the problem with guys who don't play spin well, it's drilled into their heads that you've got to get onto the front foot. And also another thing is because they don't know what's coming from the hand. You know, it's not a natural knack that they've got. they don't know what the ball is going to do. So on the back foot you can be if you've got a fair idea, you know, how it's going to spin, and both Ashwin and Rohit Sharma had that. So a lot of overseas batsmen, weak players of spin, will just go on the front foot because they feel that's the way to survive, safety first. And then they are easy meat for a lot of Indian spinners on turning pitches. We saw Australian batsmen do that a lot in the last series.
Okay, quickly, since we're talking about batsmen outside, and you know, I've spoken of Peterson. Now, I know Sambit was mentioning this earlier when we were talking about it. Hashim Amla is another interesting character. Now, plays a lot of spin bowling right from the crease where he is, and just a lot of maneuvering of the ball. Or Callis, on the other hand, likes to come forward. So we've seen two different styles. When you're playing off the crease, is it so important just have your wrists right? Is that the only way you could, you know, certify, okay, go ahead and play off the crease even if it's full, only if your wrists are that good?
No, what happens is, even in that comparison between Hashim Amla and Jacques Callis, it was that big partnership that they had when he got that 100, wasn't it? And 100 from Callis. The difference was Hashim Amla scored a lot more freely against spinners. If you're looking to play spinners off the front foot, you know, your run flow gets a little restricted because you're not getting the other options that you get on turning pitches, which is about a cut, a late cut, a flick of the hip, a pull, and all those things. Off the front foot, all you've got is a drive, which is a dangerous thing to do on a turning pitch, and then the sweep starts coming in. That's one of the reasons you see a lot of weak batsmen against spin play the sweep, because they want to be on the front foot, and now they're looking at opportunities to score. So what are the opportunities left if there's no drive there?
On principle, is the sweep shot one to play once you're set, or is there nothing like that? You can play it even from the beginning.
If you're a good player of sweep, it's not a bad shot to play. It can be played. The advantage of sweep is it can be played against a good ball. In fact, you can play the best sweep shot against a good ball.
Right.
If the ball is over pitch, you're in trouble. If it's too short, you're in trouble.
You know what? For us who've just played our cricket in, you know, in the Maidans and the gully, the sweep shot is the best shot ever. You just come down straight, and all you're doing is swinging it this way. But yeah, Sanjay Manjrekar is giving you all the finesse here at tea on day 3 of the India West Indies Test. And like I said, we were going to take in some questions if we get them in time to put to Sanjay in application on batting and how to play spin. And I think since we've spoken about how the bat comes forward, and we're talking about this test in particular, there's a good one that comes from Anand Ganesh. It's about Tendulkar's wicket. Now that is what we spoke about yesterday. Again, he was deceived by a Dusra, clearly deceived. But you mentioned how he aired himself as well. Yes, it was a decision that was, that didn't go in his favor. But he made some technical mistakes while playing the Dusra, and his bat was in front of his pad. But that wasn't an intentional something. What has Tendulkar done wrong?
Because early part of his innings, you know, when you sort of don't get the length right, you're slightly nervous, and he's not in the form of his, you know, career. So you saw even on television when they had that freeze of film, when they were trying to show the height of where the ball hit him. But that also, beg your pardon, showed the mistake that Tendulkar made, which was, you know, he was very much on the crease, and the bat had gone right forward like this. And when, you know, you're trying to meet the ball there, here, it's out of your control. You know, if anything, I don't want to give that slap analogy again.
Feel free. It's only in words, and it's only an analogy.
But anything that is precious to you, that you want to handle, you're never going to handle it from a distance. You want it right under your eyes, so that you have better control over it. It's the same with batting. And look at it. Perfect timing, under the eyes.
All right. So the other thing that I think we must talk about is that, apologies for that. This is a different position. We're kind of trying. The other thing that we must talk about specifically is another question that we've gotten. We saw Murali Vijay get out, coming down the wicket, totally beaten by the Dusra. We've spoken enough of how the Dusra is read. Sometimes it's read from the hand. People like Dravid used to read it off the pitch. Now we need to ask you, when batsmen come down the wicket, all of a sudden everything changes from the textbook, you know, balance, weight, front foot, back foot. What are the important things to keep in mind when you advance, when you're coming down the wicket? What do you do then?
See, one of the things that David Lloyd always says, you know, when he sees an English player struggle against spin, he says, you know, he's got to use his feet and go down the pitch. Now, it's easier said than done. Even I, you know, as an Indian batsman, found it a very tough thing to do, or a brave thing to do, to leave the security of my crease. Because what happens is when you leave your crease, you are taking a bit of a chance because you can get stumped, the keeper comes into play. So leave the crease only if you're confident about, you know, getting to the pitch of the ball and looking to play an attacking shot. And Navjot Singh Sidhu has always said this, and he was very good at going down the pitch and hitting the ball, is that when the bowler is sort of in this position, that's the time you step out, you leave the crease. If you do it while he's here, he can still make the adjustment. He believed that once you were here, and he had no chance of then adjusting his length. So stepping down the pitch, it's got to be a personal thing. If you're confident about it, do it. And one of the things that was drilled into our head is if you're going to go down the pitch, leave the security of the crease where you can be stumped, then it should be worth the risk that you're taking. Go down the pitch, then you've got to score runs of it.
Exactly.
No point in just going down the pitch and then.
And we've seen so many batsmen do that. They come down the wicket and they just play the defensive shot. Is that an adjustment, or did they intend? Is there some other intent of the batsman when he does that?
They survive, and a lot of people. Michael Clarke does that a lot, and it's appreciated where he goes down the pitch and then defends. You know,
not worth the risk.
It doesn't make sense. Then why leave the crease? If you want to defend, that same ball can. You know, like Rohit Sharma, Ashwin have done. He's gone down the pitch to that ball to defend it off the front foot. Why not go back and play that same ball off the back foot?
Countering the spin, countering the length, putting the bowler off, none of those things are worth the risk of coming down the wicket?
Yeah, sometimes I think people do that. I think Murali Vijay's intent was that.
Yeah.
To, you know, go down the pitch and just try and intimidate the bowlers. I think there are some bowlers like that. Sunil Gavaskar actually gave me an advice midway through the innings when I was trying to play Eddie Hemmings of England from the crease, and he sort of made it difficult for me to score. Not the only bowler who did that to me, but there it was. And then Gavaskar said, you know, why don't you just step down a couple of times to him, go down the pitch? And I did that, and after that Hemmings just started bowling a little shorter. So it's also a mental thing when you go down the pitch. Okay,
it's a mental thing as well. We just are fast approaching, just a couple of minutes or so before we resume action. But one thing I want to make Sanjay do, and this is something I'm throwing upon him at the drop of my hat, since we've got him in the zone and a bat, and we've got a highly unorthodox batsman at the crease, Sanjay, Shivnarine Chandrapal is going to be batting. I need you to tell me, just if you can, I know it's going to be a difficult impression, his initial stance, we spoke of how it could be wider, but I think he narrows it for the spinner, and how he gets into position on a day 3 track to counter all that bite and that bounce that the spinner seemed to be getting. What does he do specifically?
Okay, now I'll try and become a left-hander. Let's assume the bowler is here. You're standing at forward short leg.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I have stood against Peter Willey at forward short leg. The worst thing for a forward short leg fielder is Chandrapal is like this. He's looking at you. But you know, he's such a master. It's just a mental thing for him.
Correct.
It's all some, you know, which is a bit of fluff. It doesn't make any sense because the moment the ball is delivered, he is in a wonderful position, perfect classical sort of receiving position to get the ball. So, but this is what's interesting.
It's a little chat with the short leg fielder saying, how are you doing finally, and then I said, okay, just give me a second, and he does that. That's something like what he does. So you're telling me that when he plays the ball, there's nothing unorthodox about him at that time?
No, nothing. I mean, and it gets talked about very often that as the ball is delivered, he's in the perfect position to receive the ball, and his great strength, like we're seeing here with Rohit, he always will meet the ball right here. You know, he could stand whatever way.
Correct.
He gets into this position when the ball is delivered, you'll never see Chandrapal play like this, away from the body. It's right here. If the ball is right up, under his eyes. And that's the secret, I think, when you look at batting balance and meeting the ball under your eyes. Virendra Sehwag, you know, people said doesn't move his feet and all that, but met the ball under his eyes every time.
I think the last thing I'll put to you, because how do we get Chandrapal out is always the question that comes from Indian fans from Twitter, and that is, should you, because he's got that animated movement, should the spinners bowl quicker? Is that what Ashwin did in the first innings, or was that just Chandrapal going down the long line?
He knows, you know, he's had this movement for a long time, so he can time it well. You know, if a spinner is bowling off a short run up or runs in quickly, he knows how to get the timing right. But now we know the answer. You know, one way of getting Chandrapal out is round the wicket. If you're a seamer, round the wicket if you're a spinner as well.
So that's an interesting thought as we go into the final session of play. If you're bowling to Shivnarine Chandrapal, your best chances are around the wicket. Let's give you an idea of what the match looks like. At this point, the West Indies coming in, well, reasonably happy. Chris Gayle looking to, you know, got off to a little start. Didn't Chris Gayle, 33 of 35, looked better than he did in the previous innings. But then those 2 wickets just before tea, Kieran Powell and Samuels, both out LBW. Sanjay?
I told you about my friend, my guy who used to mentor me during my school days, college days. He would have said, Gayle, Powell, I'm not the happy with the 33 and the 36. I'm the happy with the 100.
Yeah, absolutely. But somebody who would be very happy would be the Indian captain. His bowlers have done him good. Bhuvneshwar Kumar gets a wicket with the new ball again, with 6 overs again. Yep, so he's just making sure we look good as well on match point, bringing all these figures to you and making sure it's dead right. That's where we stand at tea on day 3. The West Indies 112 for 3. This is going to be a big session, and I've been saying it since morning, but this session could very well define the duration or the length of this test match. And the key figure is there. He features second, Shivnarine Chandrapal. He's still not got far off the mark, but he features on the summary perhaps because we know how important he is. So yeah, that's what we've got time for here on Match Point. Thank you very much for joining us, Sanjay. Big thank you to you for taking the bat back after very long.
See, I've used the modern bat.
Yeah, it's a little bigger. Wee bit bigger. You would have probably scored about 3,000-4,000 runs.
I would have got
more.
so many runs if I had bats like this.
All right, but we'll keep trying something special and trying something different for you, so you enjoy your experience on Match Point here on ESPN Cricinfo. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you at Stumps with our surgeons wear on. Until then, bye-bye. Enjoy the cricket.